stand at any crosswalk in America at 7:30 in the morning and you'll see it. A long yellow nose pulls up to the curb, a hood sticking out in front of the windshield like an old farm truck. You rode in one of these as a kid, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you filed it under outdated, because 3 blocks away, the city bus looks nothing like it. A flat face, no nose, no hood, just a sleek glass front that sits low to the ground and slides right up to the curb. 2 machines built for the exact same job, moving a crowd across town, and they have opposite shapes. So here's the question almost nobody stops to ask. Why does the school bus still carry its engine way out front when the city bus quietly moved its engine to the back decades ago and never looked back? Nearly 500,000 of these yellow buses run across America, carrying close to 25 million children, and hardly any of them could tell you why. The easy answer is that school buses are just old-fashioned. But that answer is wrong, and the real reason is hiding on every road you've ever driven down, in plain sight. This has 3 layers, and most people never get past the first. But let's start with what everyone gets wrong. Walk up to that yellow bus and look at what the nose actually is. The classic American school bus, officially a Type C, is really just a truck wearing a bus body, the body bolted onto a bare truck chassis, with the engine hanging out front under a hood. And that layout does 2 things that matter enormously when your cargo is other people's children. First, it's a crush zone. When a bus hits something head-on, that long hood, the heavy engine, and the front axle all sit between the impact and the first row of kids, several feet of steel and crumple between a collision and a 7-year-old. The industry says it plainly, that the front engine gives extra protection to passengers and driver in a head-on crash. Second, it's stupidly easy to fix. The engine sits under a hood you can pop like a pickup, so a small town district doesn't need a specialist. Any truck mechanic can service it, and because the bus is basically a truck, it's cheap and durable and repairable almost anywhere. So that feels like the answer. But here's what it skips over. It tells you why a school bus is allowed to keep its nose. It says nothing about why the city bus went out of its way to get rid of one. And here's the part that should bother you. Moving the engine to the back was never the cheaper path. A flat-faced rear engine bus is harder to build and harder to service than a truck with a hood. So the city actually spent more to remove something the school bus gets for free, which means there is a reason important enough that an entire industry threw away the simple design and paid extra, and it has almost nothing to do with the engine. Here's the reframe that changes everything. The city bus didn't move its engine because of the engine. It moved it because of the floor. Think about what a city bus does that a school bus never does. It stops every 2 or 3 blocks, and a crowd gets on and off in seconds, including people in wheelchairs, people with strollers, riders who can't manage a tall staircase. Every second at a stop with the doors open is money bleeding out of the system. And federal law, since 1990, says every one of those riders has to be able to board. So transit agencies became obsessed with one thing: a floor low enough to step onto straight from the curb with no stairs at all. Now here is the physics problem that creates it, and it is the whole secret. The engine sits in front and drives the rear wheels the way a truck does. You need a drive shaft, a long spinning steel rod running the entire length of the vehicle beneath the floor. And that shaft has to go somewhere. It forces the floor up into a raised hump down the middle of the bus. You physically cannot have a flat, low, step-free floor with a drive shaft running beneath it. So engineers did the only thing the geometry allows. They lifted the engine off the nose, dropped it onto the rear axle where it drives the wheels directly with no shaft crossing the cabin, and gave the front wheels independent suspension, so nothing ran underneath. Suddenly, the floor could fall to about 15 inches off the ground. Step on from the curb, roll a wheelchair in on a cheap ramp, load a rush hour crowd in half the time. The rear engine was never the goal. It was the price of admission for the floor. And this exact trade-off is sitting in your own driveway right now and in the delivery truck that dropped a package on your porch this week. But we will get to that, because once you see that the engine follows the floor, a question appears. If this design is so good that every city bus on Earth switched to it, why didn't school buses switch too? The answer is that these two buses were never the same animal. They've been separate species for almost 90 years. Go back to 1936, when a company called Yellow Coach, soon swallowed by General Motors, built a city bus with the engine mounted sideways across the back and a body with no separate frame at all, the whole shell carrying its own weight like an aluminum eggshell. By 1940, that idea became the General Motors old look. The rounded, loaf-shaped bus your grandparents rode, rear engine, no nose. By 1959, it became the new look, the one with the big curved windshield people, nicknamed the fishbowl, still rear engine. So the flat-faced city bus is not some recent invention. It is older than the interstate highway system. City buses solved the no-nose problem before your parents were born. Meanwhile, the school bus went down a different road, and the government paved that road in concrete. In 1974, after years of horrific crashes, Congress ordered safety standards built specifically for school buses. They took effect on April 1st, 1977, and they are why the bus looks the way it does inside. Investigators had found the old seats failed children in a crash by being, in the government's own words, too weak, too low, and too hostile. So the new rules wrapped every kid in compartmentalization. Tall seats with thickly padded backs packed close together, no seatbelts needed on the big buses. That interior is a fortress built around a truck frame, and a fortress on a truck frame wants a strong, heavy front end, which is exactly what a nose with an engine in it gives you. Then in 1990, the Americans with Disabilities Act arrived, and transit went the other way. To satisfy it, the first true low-floor bus in North America, the New Flyer D40LF, rolled out in 1991. 2 decades, 2 laws, 2 shapes. Now here's the part that breaks people's assumptions. You would expect school buses to drift toward the sleek transit look. They are doing the opposite. The transit style Type D is fading out, and one major builder, Collins, simply stopped making them. The nose you assumed was a relic is the design that's winning. Therefore, the question flips into something uncomfortable. The nose keeps beating the flat face. What is it so good at that we never noticed? Here's what the nose is good at, and once you see it, you'll see it everywhere. The position of an engine is a fingerprint. It tells you, at a glance, what a machine was built to care about most, and you have been surrounded by that fingerprint your whole life without reading it. Look at your own car. The engine is in front, under a hood, because a car values crash protection and cheap, simple packaging over a flat floor. The same bargain the school bus made. Look at the delivery truck that brought your package. The engine is out front again, because it is a working truck that values toughness and a quick roadside repair. Now look at the city bus. The engine is hidden in back, the floor dropped to the curb, because it values one thing above all: moving a crowd, including a wheelchair, on and off in seconds. The long-distance coach you take between cities has its engine in the rear under a high floor, because it values luggage bays underneath and a smooth, quiet ride for hours. Every one of these machines struck a different bargain, and everyone wears the answer on the outside, where anyone could read it. The school bus took the bargain that protects children and survives a small-town repair shop. The city bus took the bargain that serves a packed, time-pressured public, The same three-letter word, bus, is hiding two completely different solutions to two completely different problems. From now on, you'll read every vehicle on the road like a sentence that tells you exactly what it was built to value. So here's where you actually land. You walked up to that yellow bus thinking you were looking at something old, a design nobody bothered to modernize. What you were actually looking at was a deliberate choice. The engine sits out front because that nose is a crush zone, shielding the kids behind it. Because the bus is really a truck a local mechanic can fix anywhere. And because federal rules from 1977 wrapped a padded fortress around that truck frame and never asked for a flat, low floor, the city bus moved its engine to the back, not for the engine's sake, but to drop its floor to the curb for a wheelchair and a rush hour crowd, a decision the law demanded in 1990 and the drive shaft made unavoidable. Two laws, two missions, two shapes. So that long yellow nose you filed under outdated is really an 85-year-old answer to a question city buses just solved a different way. It is not behind the times. It is aimed at a different problem. And every engine you pass from here on is quietly telling you what its machine was built to love. So if a school bus hides all of that in plain sight, wait until we look at why the gas pump handle clicks off the exact instant your tank fills, and how it knows before you do.